Mr. Virtue, there isn't any possible way that old man Hiruzen at nearly 70 years of age is underrated. Right? Wrong. Old man Hiruzen, despite not only his age and mental afflictions within his primary showing, is one of the most, if not the most dominant Kage ever. I mean, he's quite literally stronger than almost any Kage ever, excluding the Hokage, and should be in conversation against other Hokage like Tobirama. So today I want to engage in a sort of eye-opening discussion that seems to be needed every couple of years, where I detail fully the true power of Old Man Hiruzen specifically, and all the reason as to why he should at least be much stronger than what the community would have you believe. But firstly, before directly addressing Hiruzen in his titanic clash with Orochimaru and the lore that surrounds his state, we need to first understand the backdrop of how to look at Hiruzen, where you'll notice that having trained under both the first and second Hokage, he's not only considered to be the most accomplished of Tobirama's entire unit, but even having a talent and or skill surpassing Tobirama's even from childhood, fitting with how many other Kage around his time, such as the third Kaze Kage, surpassed the more diplomatic focused second Kaze Kage in Shimon, with the same being true for the third Raikage in comparison to the second, where Hiruzen would go on to beat Danzo for the title of third Hokage, despite him likely being the second greatest of Tobirama's once dominant squad, where the third would go on to be considered by nearly everyone around him to boast the reputation of the strongest of all the previous Hokage, supporting the natural surpassing of each generation, and Hiruzen surpassing Tobirama, who at one point used to be hailed as the fastest of any shinobi according to Madara, which the second data book corroborates via stating that he is prideful of his superior combative ability and the waterlies, which he was especially skillful at, which was unexpectedly revived in the present to defeat the third, which put fear into the hearts of Konoha, which directly implies that while sure, Tobirama did boast the fastest speed of any shinobi during his time, he also took pride even more so in his monstrous water style that stayed to have flooded battlefields and drowning enemy platoons with literal tsunamis, which he also likely did through killing people with his legendary water lance that's so strong that surely nothing can't be cut. Yet despite this monstrous level being something greater than even his speed, it was revived and brought back by Orochimaru. And so it also struck fear into the hearts of Konoha. With his fists of steel, he would hold nothing back, even in the face of the legendary Dragon Flame Bombs, the literal strongest fire style in the world. Tobirama, with his singular signed water wall, can actually stop the attack, showing to not only Orochimaru, but the bystanding Anbu as well, that this is the combat and the level that it takes to be Hokage, to be standing above not just every other shinobi in Konoha, but all 5 principal territories as well. Yet, when the elemental advantage was omitted, we can see that the much larger and more imposing water dragon was completely blocked and rendered helpless against the might of Hiruzen's basic mud wall, of the which he achieved a truly Hokage level mastery over, like with his many other techniques, demonstrating completely to the audience that even whilst a 70-year-old man, Hiruzen is beyond even Tobirama's strongest attributes, whilst mentally suppressed, having to also battle his own teachers, which both Kakashi and Orochimaru remark is painful. Orochimaru even slicing his own hand open so that he wouldn't have to engage the battle, because he wouldn't have even been able to start the battle if he did not do that. Yet after most of the battle was finally over, Hiruzen realizes that he needs to protect those he considers to be his literal family, and regains both his mental fortitude completely and parries off both Tobirama and Hashirama's taijutsu strikes whilst literally blind, using only his Inuzuka sense of smell. When the mental afflictions aren't in play, whilst almost deathly fatigued, he could still match Tobirama's taijutsu skills and things along those lines, but Hiruzen's true power without suppression could also be seen, albeit intricately, in the war arc, where we could see that the Edo Tensei completely copies the exact amount of dead pigment cells and wrinkles on his face to revive him during the Orochimaru battle, which is something that we can be confident in saying, as we know that the Viz, the General Translation and Correction Company for Naruto's label, corrects the amount of wrinkles that Hiruzen has in regards to the time period, as they actually change it during the Nine Tails attack, so that he has 2 there, then in the massacre he has 3, and every other flashback these are pretty consistent, and then finally in part 1 he'd either have 4 or 5. Nagato is also a prime example of the Edo Tensei and its replicative aspects, not taking into account what's beneficial for the fighter, but I digress. Also, if you guys are enjoying the video, then please like the video and consider subscribing. It'd be greatly appreciated. After fighting throughout the war arc, we could see that once reunited with his sensei, Orochimaru is open to engage in some master-student nostalgia, remembering their times during war. Hiruzen now can outspeed and utilize the adamantine Nioi to outspeed even Orochimaru's bodily snakes, which are orders of magnitude beyond regular ones and are typically faster than the user, whether it be from Orochimaru or Sasuke. He also has a completely new Zetsu body with Hashirama's DNA infused so much to the point where the DNA profile is basically in line with much more than what they thought prior, with Sakura even implying that it wouldn't be an overstatement to call them literal genetic clones of Hashirama, hence why he gains less of his original power by proxy when he's revived, but that's a bit of a side conversation. If you want a comparison for how much stronger the war arc Orochimaru would be, then you can compare him to the Edo Tensei Hokage and how all of their host bodies were weaker than Chunin exam Sasuke when fighting Old Man Hiruzen, yet Hiruzen can still combo attack with this Orochimaru, showing how without his mental afflictions, him completely blitzing around Orochimaru and hitting the Kusanagi blade out of his hands while deathly fatigued is a lowball. And while Hiruzen being above Tobirama seems absurd to many people, the only real reason as to why would just be his performance against Jubito, where we know that he can react to unstable Jubito who's just running at him, where he could at least place the FTG seal via an arm movement, which Hiruzen can replicate via moving his whole shoulder out of the way, except in Hiruzen's case, Jubito is not only moving in a more offensive form, being flight, but also the TSOs are extending, therefore adding another layer of acceleration on top of the flight speed, which just makes his overall speed faster, obviously, meaning that Hiruzen reacted to a much faster attack, plus was capable of completely analyzing the TSOs and their negating properties. And while many people who are willing to play Scorch Earth and simply attest that while sure, any feat on Jubito can't, whilst unstable, can't be scaled at all, that's fine, as Tobirama is still a combatant capable of remaining relevant in a battle against Jubito. The same would just be said about Hiruzen, as the idea in and of itself is ambiguous. See, as Hiruzen has not only the greater feat prior, but he could also analyze not only the TSOs but also the God Tree roots as well, and also better than Tobirama. Tobirama did uncover the Senjutsu counter to Jubito, but that still doesn't do much. Hiruzen can save Naruto and inform the rest of the squad what Tobirama is, about to do. And while sure, Tobirama looks more impressive, he's also around the entire fight and has the FTG seal, which Hiruzen likely doesn't. The FTG was only done by merely an arm movement, which we've established that Hiruzen, had he been proficient at the FTG, would have done the same thing. And with his much greater, more diverse arsenal of jutsu, including his sealing ninjutsu, which is implied by Orochimaru to stand above the rest of the world through his ability to interact with the tetragram seal, something more solid than Killer Bee's steel shell seal, with numerous other jutsu, including essentially every jutsu in Konoha, with Orochimaru having been stated in the 1 Decade 100 Ninja Guide to have every jutsu in Konoha. All three of Hiruzen's statements plus Orochimaru's are pretty consistent as well, meaning that from what we know, a full power old Hiruzen in comparison to Tobirama has a greater ninjutsu and likely genjutsu arsenal as well, seeing as he could counter the Bringer of Darkness genjutsu and is said to know over 1,000 genjutsu alone. He has a greater sealing ninjutsu ability, relative analytical ability, arguably relative speed, and a much greater kenjutsu and summoning ability in the form of Enma, the strongest animal summon, with the staff variation being able to actually slice up Hashirama's deep forest emergence, which is actually implied to be a heavenly gift of extraordinary power, and that it is so difficult to harness that no one other than the Hokage himself has mastered it, making it a legendary ninjutsu. And that's like how the bystanding Anbu note that via using his chakra as the life source, the user creates massive trees and controls them at will, using them for offense, defense, molding Konoha, and even capturing enemies, making it an all-powerful technique. And that without this technique, it would not be an exaggeration to say that the creation of the hidden leaf would not have been possible. Yet despite this, the 100 leaf section of this databook file does hail it as a whole separate level, due to it being a part of the Hokage's ninjutsu, and Hiruzen can still blast it apart. And while it may seem simple to criticize the wood style not being at full power due to its much weaker in the Edo Tensei, this probably isn't really the case, as while yes, the quantity of wood style that can be produced is weaker, the quality of the chakra that's allocated to it wouldn't change, and this likely could be even beyond Yamato's wood style and things like this, showing how with just the Adamante Noi, which would be an attack weaker than the Dragon Flame Bombs, which are hailed by the second data book to be boasting the highest level of power even amongst the jutsu possessed by the third, and that this is a ninjutsu only possible if you're the third, which the second anime profile guides extends in turn to it being several times more intense with an attack range far exceeding that of the Fireball Jutsu. This is why it's the strongest of all fire style ninjutsu, showing how whenever they aren't being countered by the strongest water style potentially in history, they can literally blast through wood style easily and incinerate enemies from all sides, which is just another category that he would have over Tobirama. So let me ask you this, even though I don't personally subscribe to Hiruzen beating Tobirama, with all the categories going to Hiruzen, is it a reasonable claim to make? When analyzing the circumstances around Tobirama and the end of his life, at the first Peace Summit meeting, Tsunade implies that it was the 5 ninja tools that brought Tobirama to the brink of death, seeing as they are weapons so mighty that when wielded, they can even surpass the 5 Kage, which is something that Orochimaru isn't even foreign to, as not only Orochimaru but the original selection for 4th Hokage, but both Hashirama and Tobirama are all Hokage level threats, as the bystanding Anbu members remark about how the level of the Edo Tensei is what it takes to be Hokage, something that means standing above all 5 principal territories. Furthermore, Hiruzen is stated to directly live up to this in how he is stated 3 separate times to not only stand at the top of Konoha but the entire shinobi world as well. Even Orochimaru is stated to possess practically the same taijutsu and be evenly matched with Old Man Hiruzen, who was extremely suppressed, and is stated to be on par or potentially even greater than a base Jiraiya, who is stated to have made shinobi of all nations tremble since the time of war, something also said verbatim about Jonin Minato in the same 1 Decade 100 Ninja Guide. Not to say the two are equals, however it does paint the backdrop that Hiruzen is rivaling as an old man, despite not having trained or engaged in any combat for at least a decade. When characters like Minato are known to keep fighting and getting stronger, both the 4th Raikage A and the 5th Kazekage Gaara are stated to train continuously to maintain their level as Kage. Yet Hiruzen maintained a level massively beyond that due to him literally catabolizing. If the Edo Tenseis were alive, then Hiruzen would have outright killed all 3 beyond the 5 Kage level opponents due to the explosive tags, fitting with the anime having Hiruzen utilize his Earth style Great Mud River, plus the Earth style Earth Dragon Bombs, which he then stacks the Dragon Flame Bombs on top of, which completely burn Orochimaru alive as an opening move, killing him if he didn't have as many snake-prone abilities that circumvent death. Even in the war, Hiruzen displayed the ability to make more clones than Tobirama, so that each one could blast out the exact same jutsu used by the Guru Yamato statue, which was completely halting the barrages of the 5 Kage, who albeit were fatigued. However, the reason as to why is implied by Oniki to be that they were using large-scale jutsu against it, which made them tired and fatigued, despite it being fruitless. And this isn't to say that Tobirama didn't stand above the 5 Kage, as he naturally would have, which would be emphasized by Danzo's statement. However, the point is that the levels that Tobirama was rivaling in his prime, and that he eventually ends up succumbing to, could be combated by Hiruzen at his worst. Hiruzen also stood above all 5 Kage for several score longer, even standing above all the other Kage in the world sounds impressive at first glance, right? But it's actually even more notable than what it seems, as this would not only place him above essentially every Biju and Jinchuriki within each village due to several notes, such as the Chapter 457 synopsis statement and the Road to Ninja Guide saying that the 5 Kage are the strongest shinobi, fitting with the much earlier material, including the 4th Kazekage's second databook file confirming that he is one of the 5 Kage, the strongest ninjas, and Gaara Hiden. It's also stated that Gaara wasn't just any shinobi, he was one of the 5 Kage who stood at the summit of the shinobi world. More importantly, by virtue of being stronger than all the Jinchuriki and the specific generation of Kage, it would also assert that Hiruzen is a greater fighter than even the 4th Raikage, who stated to be stronger than the perfect Jinchuriki Killer B, who has honed his abilities and learned to harness Yuki's power beyond what he could without B whenever he used to rival the strongest previous Raikage, the 3rd, right? Meaning that Hiruzen would stand above every Raikage in history up until that point. The same would also be said for Oniki, as he's not only the only other user outside of the 2nd Tsuchikage to hone particle style, but he's also honed it it, and the general applications he has like are just far beyond what Mu could actually utilize through Onaki's light and boulder jutsu and stuff like that, which allows him to not only carry Turtle Island but even stop Madara's Tengai Shinsei Meteor. Although with Hiruzen's Dragon Flame Bombs being the strongest fire style and being above Tobirama's water style, and then being above this Madara level with Onaki and the Meteor, this could also be a good point to bring up for his fire style, but I completely digress. The third Kaze Kage is also stated to be the strongest Kaze Kage ever, and Hiruzen would be above him, and hence all the other Hokage, or not Hokage, sorry, just Kaze Kage. You get the point. Some of the fighters are even relative to the weaker Hokage like Tsunade, showing how Hiruzen is definitely way above essentially every Kage and is beyond the lower variants of the Hokage. And that's exactly my point. While sure, Hiruzen never has any cool shiny red eyes and all-seeing forehead veins and big, wood life force abilities, he would still stand above virtually every shinobi we see, having also boasted the longest term of Hokage and having wisdom that surpasses everybody. What do you guys think? Did you guys change your mind on Hiruzen? Is he perhaps much stronger than you originally thought when removing the mental afflictions and our preconceived notions engulfing his true power? I hope this video can stand as an informative video on just what exactly Hiruzen might have looked like had the mental afflictions been removed. And while many comparisons to Tobirama were made, he simply is the easiest link, similarly to how Sage Jiraiya is an easy link for Sage Naruto. And while I don't believe Hiruzen beats Tobirama whilst old, I think the arguments are there, especially when granting the same generosity that is usually given to Tobirama. So I definitely hope the cognitive dissonance and the curtain that kind of holds that down will be lifted, and people can see maybe Hiruzen through a different lens. If there's something you feel I should have brought up, then please let me know in the comments as to why, if you disagree, things like that. Please also consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated and helps the channel grow probably more than you would really realize. But more importantly than that, liking the video would also be great. May God bless you all. Love you guys.